Scrapes are a hot topic. Some of y'all may know I did my master's thesis on scrape behavior, and I want to share some techniques to make us all better hunters near scrapes. Let's start by defining the role of a scrape. It's a communication tool among deer. It's almost like the old bulletin board at a church or something. I got something for sale, or this is me, I'm going somewhere. Scrapes are a communication hub. Bucks can share their dominant status. Does can check that dominant status. That's, we're making a few assumptions here because we can't talk to a deer. And even button bucks interact with scrapes. Summary there is scrapes are a very important communication hub this time of year. And we all know how important communication is for local populations. There's two physical parts to a scrape. There's the overhanging limb, which actually is more important, and the ground portion. That seems to get all the attention, the ground portion. Bucks will get in there and paw, probably leaving some scent from that interdigital gland. They're urinating that scrape. They'll do other things in the scrape to communicate, but they're mouth that overhanging limb. They're actually mouth it. I've seen videos, I've had videos of deer sticking the tip of that limb in their nose, certainly rubbing their preorbital gland on it. Does will come up and smell that overhanging limb. Bucks will smell it and mouth that overhanging limb. Of course, all deer smell that ground portion of the scrape. But I've done some research where if I cut that overhanging limb off, the scrape dies. The overhanging limb is the important part of a scrape. All of it's better, but if you just had one component, it's the overhanging limb. I mentioned that scrapes are a communication hub, and deer-to-deer communication is probably at a peak right during that pre-rut and rut, especially the pre-rut. There's not that many does receptive. Those bucks have sorting out that dominance, man. They're all pumped up with testosterone, and that's the time of year when scrapes are most visited. During the rut, when a lot of does are receptive, that communication, that scent is in the air. That doe is leaving scent that says she's receptive. Scrapes often go unused during the rut, but the pre-rut and right after the peak of the rut is prime time for scrapes to be active. There's a lot known about scrapes and a lot still not known about scrapes. One is the reason why scrape physical size and frequency of use by deer is not necessarily related. You'd think when you found a great big scrape, there'd be more deer using it. And sometimes that's the case, but in my research, I found that's not always the case. So sometimes you got a small scrape right in a travel corridor or something, and deer are really using that overhanging limb a lot. There's other times, there's a great big scrape or 3 or 4 scrapes around a tree. Remember, they're always under an overhanging limb, about 4.5, 5 feet off the ground. That thing's pawed out the size of a pickup hood, and there's a bunch of deer going through there. I like to look for how worn that overhanging limb is. Is the bark knocked off of it? I mean, is it really warm, kind of blunt on the end? In addition to the amount of traffic on the ground and the size of the trails or traffic coming into the scrape area.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Also by Green Cover Food Plots, Winchester, Moultrie Mobile, Fleet Outdoor Apparel, Morel Targets, RTP Outdoors, Fourth Arrow, Scorpion Venom Archery, Case IH Tractors, Ward Laboratories, Burris Optics, G5 Broadheads, Prime Bows, and Redneck Hunting Blinds.
The scrape happens to be where I can approach, hunt, and exit without alerting deer, and hopefully a travel corridor where 2 trails are crossing or something. You bet I'll hunt right over that scrape. But oftentimes, I know scrapes are in the area, but I'm backing up to a pinch point, somewhere that I know deer are traveling within range of the weapon I'm using, 30 yards for a bow or so. Because oftentimes bucks, I've seen this on my own trail cameras, will circle downwind of that scrape. You may be, 15 or 20 yards on one side of the scrape, and if the buck's 15 or 20 on the other side of the scrape, you're gonna sit there and watch it, but he's gonna scent check it, he's gonna smell it, in other words, but not get within bow range. So I like to be over scrapes that are also in pinch points, or at a pinch point nearby a scrape where all the deer are funneling through that point. Some may go through the scrape, others are just going downwind and scent checking it. Deer are most active at dawn and dusk. We've shared that from our moultries here at the Proving Grounds. I found that way back when I was doing my master's, and a lot of GPS studies where GPS collars are fitted to deer have shown that same trend. So it stands to reason that's the time of day when scrapes are most active, but you're certainly going to get a lot of trail camera pictures and videos at night. So don't just get honed in on the scrape and forget about everything else. Again, bottlenecks, pinch points between a bedding area and a scrape may be a better place to put your stand or blind than actually hunting over the scrape. They could be used all hours of the day, but the most frequent times based on research are dawn and dusk, just like that's the time when deer are most active. There's a lot of old hunter tales that talk about hunting scrapes right after rain, and that kind of makes sense because scrapes are scent-based communication posts. So if a big rain comes and flushes off some of that scent, or at least dampens it, weakens it, it would make sense that if bucks are really using scrapes, they're gonna run that area and update or, freshen up that scrape. I like to hunt scrapes right after a good rain, but not during the rain, not because bucks won't use it, but I don't want to take a bow shot at a deer because it's tough to follow that blood trail when it's raining. Deer-made or natural scrapes are kind of the pinnacle of scrape hunting, but there's another way you can approach that. I said I'd rather hunt a pinch point. There's not a scrape there. Why don't you develop a mock scrape? Putting a mock scrape in a pinch point can certainly make that a great hunting location. If you don't know how to make a mock scrape, check out this link or in the description, and we'll give you full details on how we've made successful mock scrapes. Man, understanding deer behavior is a great way to learn more and enjoy creation. But even more important in all facets of deer hunting is for us to take time every day and be intentional about seeking the Creator's will and applying it to our lives. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.